And welcome back to CXO Revolutionaries, brought to you by Zscaler. Today, I have for you a treat. I have Lauren Larscheid, who is the Senior Sales Leader over at Amazon Web Services, also known as AWS, an $80 billion, that's right, B with a $1 billion organization with over 135,000 employees. She's also served as a senior leader at companies like Oracle and Cisco. Lauren, welcome to CXO Revolutionaries.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Lauren, what's been a key success strategy or trait that's helped you in your career?
Yeah, I've had a lot, but one I've just recently revisited is grit. I re-listened to Angela Duckworth's book, and I've read it a bunch of times, but I think it's a good reminder during tough times that you just have to keep going. And I come from a family of 7, a blended family, and from the Midwest, so I've got those good Midwest work ethic. And my parents told me I could do anything. I could be anything I wanted to be. If I worked hard and I was consistent, I could do it. And it's been true. So grit is definitely number one characteristic I feel like that I try to instill in my family and in myself and in my team.
And how have you fostered that in your career?
Yeah, I think it's just literally getting up every single day. I was a dance and psychology major in college, so a non-traditional path into this 20 plus year tech business. I was waitressing in Omaha, Nebraska when my husband was in medical school. And the president of a software company was like, you should come be in sales. And I went the next day and I got the job in the only outside sales group they had, a $150 million software company in Omaha, Nebraska. So that's how I got my start. I got discovered.
Wow. And what was it about that moment? You interacted with them?
I worked in a nice restaurant, and they were one of my patrons, and he's like, I love your energy. I think you'd be great in sales. And at the time, I wanted to do a PhD in clinical psychology. And my husband's like, someone needs to make money because he's racking up medical school debt, and we're young and want to start a family. So I went to work, and the rest is history.
Wow. And so I suspect you can learn a lot about sales from serving and working in a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you keep the customer at the heart of everything you do and you build world-class teams, that applies to anything, whether it's serving food or running a $500 million business for AWS.
All right, so I don't want to get too far away from your background, because also you were Miss Missouri, right?
Yes, I was.
So what was that like?
Well, whatever you think about pageants, because I had some strong opinions as a feminist, but I did it because, as I mentioned, I was from a large family, and my parents at a young age were like, we love you and you can do anything you want, but you're going to be paying for it. So I started working at 13. I was a dancer, a ballerina, and I was in a company. And so I started teaching dance, which was like not really work. But I was able to pay for the things I wanted, like Guess jeans and Nike tennis shoes.
All the important things.
The important stuff.
Yeah.
When I was going into college, I was looking for ways to get scholarships. So I got academic scholarships. I was top 10 in my class. But it wasn't enough. So I had a friend in the dance industry told me you should do pageants because it's actually, you can make a lot of money. So it was the Miss American co-ed. Co-ed means that you're under 18. Okay. And I did it. I won on the 4th of July in 1992. And I got to go on to the Miss America, which was in Hawaii at the time. And it did help pay for some of my expenses for college. So it was really great.
All right. So for those of us who have never been in a beauty pageant, what could we learn? Like you went through that process, you probably learned a lot.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is first, don't judge, because you might, whatever you think, one of the leadership principles at Amazon is learn and be curious. And I really try to learn and be curious versus coming from a place of judgment. And in this time in the world and the place in the world where we just need to leave with love, whatever you think about pageants, I did it to make money because that was my motivator. But the best thing about being in a pageant is that it really, you had to practice audible ready interview cues. And my parents made me read the paper every day, and I had to be audible ready for current events. I don't read the paper today, but I very much had to be audible ready in the state of the world. And I think that's really important in business. I feel audible ready for my customers and what's happening. But so it was be prepared and be audible ready. The second is I really enjoy, I'm very different than most of my peers. Most of them, are male and come up through like a, computer science engineering, or they love gaming. I don't play video games and I don't code. And so what it teaches me is that I have a very different view of the world, meaning I come to it at a creative, in a creative way. I don't look at the same way that you might think of like a ones and O's. So pageants taught me, all the girls, when they ask, what do you want to do? And they're like, we want to solve world hunger. I talked about drug use and abortion, and like I was different, and that actually served well for me. I didn't have the same answer as everyone else. So be different, be unique, be your own authentic self.
Oh, I love that. So I want to go into that, but also I want to hear about being Audible ready.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is Audible ready to you, and how do you believe that that's been a helpful trait?
Well, I think it's really important to anchor on, again, what's most important to your customers. So whether you're at Cisco, I was running the utilities vertical. So I spent 13 years learning about the utility space and the power grid. And I never would have dreamed when I was a little girl taking ballerina classes at 8 years old that I was going to be interested in the smart grid. But I was really passionate about it and learning about it. And at the time, Cisco ran a big network all around the globe. And utility companies have, SoCal Edison has 50,000 square miles of sensors, and we could put sensors out there and provide some intelligence to it. So I think it's really important to know your customer's business. And you don't have to be an expert. People always say, well, you're not going to know the utilities as good as the utilities. I'm like, yes, but I can be at least 101 level. I think it's important, if you're calling on customers, that you know about them and you know about their industries, and you're thinking about how your solutions can help them in their business. And if you anchor on that, you can do anything. So I think that's important. Audible Ready is just, I think a lot of times we speak, and I do this, and I'm thinking about the next question. I'm not really listening to you. So really be conscious about be here now and listening. And when you ask a question, like, don't be so worried about the next question. Just listen. It's okay to go, you know what, can you repeat that for a second? I was thinking about something else for a second. So, and I think it's just really being authentic. I'm for sure far from perfect, but I love people, and I love connecting the hard things to solutions that we can bring and helping people and customers be successful.
So powerful. You sound like someone who's really spending time in the business of your customers to understand. And I think Audible Ready sounds like it's responding with a question or responding with an answer, but it's also really understanding your customer and being able to resonate in conversation with them.
Yes.
And versus a lot of salespeople, they're just going to talk about their solution and what they do versus being able to speak about the business. And I'm sure utilities, it's different than what Amazon does, right?
Very different. That's very different.
Yeah, and Cisco and what different than what Cisco does. So being able to really get familiar with your utility customer in that way can be really powerful and generate good results.
Yeah, I have two rules. One is never talk about our products. I think no one cares what Redshift does, or they don't care. They care about how can Redshift enable me to complete my business goals. So my number one thing I ask all my reps all the time, and anyone calling my customers, is what is the business problem we're trying to solve? And if you can't answer that question, then we don't have a why. We don't have a reason. And if you can answer that question, but you're having a hard time attaching it to what we do, then let's work on that together. But never talk about your products. Speak the language of the customer. They give you all the answers to the test. If you just listen and write it down, you're like, oh, you just called, instead of talking about saving money, you want to increase your margin by 10%. Like, those are different things. So I'm really passionate around never talking about a product and really anchoring on the business problem we're trying to solve. And speaking that language, it's our job to solve their problems before they know they have a problem.
Yeah, who knew back in the day, Lauren coming through, waiting tables, Miss Missouri, now working at an executive level for one of the world's largest organizations, but you're still drawing on those key lessons of listening, being able to speak the language of the customer. What a success strategy.
Well, thank you.
Man, that's a great thing. And it's interesting too, because you say you did, and some people would say, well, you're disadvantaged because you didn't come up through the traditional tech path, didn't program, didn't learn about architecture, but you have these other skills and you were willing to learn about these other things and make those connections, and now you're helping drive sales.
Yeah, and I cannot do it alone. I mean, I'm good at just a few things, but I surround myself with people who are smarter and better than me in every other way. I call my engineering lead my better half. She's so smart and she's brilliant. And I say, can we do that? All the time. And so I don't do it on my own. I do my things really well, and I surround myself with people who augment my weaknesses. And I definitely have room for improvement. I can definitely be more technical, audible ready, and I work on it every day. But I still believe if you can't answer the business problem and you can't figure out a way to make it simpler for our customers, it's just too much. I mean, if you're running utility, or, today I have software companies in the ISV space, they are running their business. They can't figure out how to make sure AWS can help them. That's our job.
I want to make sure we have time to ask you about Amazon Wow.
Yes.
Because this is, and the listeners are going to hear about it, but it seems like something like this would not be feasible in a huge organization.
Yeah.
Like that. Just one person sparking this idea. So maybe share a little bit about the idea, but what in the world got into you to where you're tackling this inside such a huge organization like Amazon?
Yeah, so I'm super passionate about women in technology, diversity in general, and also letting school-age children know you don't have to be a math major or go to MIT like my brother to be successful in technology. You can be a dance and psychology major and be successful in technology. So at Cisco, I started the Women's Action. I was a part of the Women's Action Network, and I facilitated that in Irvine and in San Francisco, which was a safe space for women to come together. And we did everything from self-help to leadership principles to work-life balance. And so when I came to Amazon, there wasn't an organization in my ISV group. I was the only girl. And so I asked my boss, I'd like to start this organization called Women of the West. And he was like, write a narrative. At Amazon, we do a lot of writing. And so I wrote a narrative. I'd never written a narrative, 2-page. And I just stated the problem. It was coming out of COVID. There was a lot of anxiety and depression. And I had women coming up to me going, can I work in ISV? Can I work at Amazon? Can I have children? Can I be married? And I was like, wow, it is 2020 and we're asking these questions now. Like, I don't want you to ever feel like you can't work anywhere in the world that you want and do whatever you need to do. And so I started this organization. And everyone's welcome. If you identify yourself as a woman, great. If you want to be an ally, everyone is welcome. I always say everyone's welcome at my table. Everyone's welcome in my office. So we started it as sort of a mass mentoring where once a month we bring in leaders, and in January we're having the CIO of a healthcare company who's also a hockey mom with me. So she comes in. We've had lots of L8, L10 leaders at Amazon. That's our director and VP level who if I just called them up and said, can you mentor me? They'd be like, no, I have 2,000 people in my org and I run a global org and I can't. But they can speak once a month, 45 minutes to my organization. We've expanded it to women of the world because all women around the world, we have a lot of East Coast attendees now. And it's a 45-minute TED Talk format. I basically ask what's your leadership principles, what ideas, what recommendations do you have for working women, whether you're a mom, a wife, an Indian coach, whoever, whatever you are, how do you handle, what are some tips and tricks? And then we finish it off with, what are you reading right now? What is interesting to you? And usually a call to action, because I'm very big on Amazon's leadership principle of broad scale responsibility, that we're here to serve in the communities in which we live. So that can be as simple as, take a walk on the beach today, or please give $5 to, brain cancer. So yeah, that's the org.
I love it. And so how big is the WOW organization right now?
So we have about 1,300 members, but on a monthly basis, probably 35 people show up. It's a Friday afternoon. I just did a survey. I'm like, do you like this time? And, does it work? And yeah, we're keeping the time. So
it sounds like a great organization, and it sounds very entrepreneurial inside a big organization that people may not think is entrepreneurial.
Right. I think Amazon's very entrepreneurial, and there are these organizations in other parts of the world, but I didn't find one for sales specifically, and sales women leaders specifically, and individual contributors, sales leaders. Anyone can attend. We've also taken it out to our customers. So at Reinforce this year in Anaheim, we did Leading with Empathy, a session on leading with empathy. And again, during this, we've been in trauma for 3 years, from COVID to wars to tough economic times. And I think that people need to know that at the end of the day, like, we're not robots. And if I care about you as a human first, I'm probably going to get a better work result out of you. And so I'm big on that. And a lot of times people are like, whoa, you're way too touchy-feely. I mean, I cry at work. I am very emotional. But I'm like, that's me. And my people know that I love them and care for them. And I have their back and will go to the end of the earth for them.
Sounds like an inspiring leader.
Oh,
and it's great. It's great to, I mean, you're showing other people that you can start new things inside an organization.
Absolutely.
If you have a passion for it. How difficult was it to kickstart that inside a big company?
Amazon is very frugal, so, no budget. So I did
on your own time, or as much time as you can.
Yeah, so at Amazon, we kind of have, you do your rules and you produce your results and you deliver results you deliver for your customers. And that's your job and that's what we pay you to do. But then you have a whole nother job called being Amazonian. And I always encourage people to find your passion. My passion is women in technology, diversity in technology. And so starting WOW and promoting women is just, I like that. I'm going to do that anyway. So when we took it out to the community, we did International Women's Day. We partnered with a customer and with a partner, and they donated $5,000 so we could stuff 300 jars for kids with cancer. And then we just did a breast cancer awareness one in October. We had we broadcasted all over Southern California and had a breast cancer survivor tell us how to do breast self-exams. And then we raised money for Susan B. Komen. So you don't need a lot of money to do these things. Partners and customers are happy to participate. I was just with the president and CRO of one of our partners, Kaylin, and she was like, "Thank you so much. Like, I'll write the check every time. Thank you for doing the work." And I'm like, "We're a great partner. It's time or money. And if I give the time, you give the money."
It's like that's the way business can get done on a different level.
Totally agree.
When you're working with suppliers or customers on things that are not necessarily about getting bottom line results, but making a real more meaningful personal connection.
Right.
Isn't that what it's all about?
It is. And I get like hundreds of LinkedIn, like, let me tell you about my product, blah, blah, blah. Never. If someone linked me in and said, I see that you're passionate about STEAM and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and I'm gonna do a volunteer event at this 8th grade school in San Jose. Would you come with me? I would go. So
it's something to think about.
I encourage all my people, every one of our executives is on a board, is passionate about something. And if you say, hey, I see that you're passionate around robotics and, I'd love to come be a judge on your next robotics thing, or can we walk together to raise money for American Cancer Society or whatever, they'll be like, absolutely. And it's a real way of like living and working and serving in the community, but it also like fuels your soul. Like, it's just good. It's just like the right thing to do.
Yeah, consider connecting on a human level with your employees and your team and the broader community, and then see what happens and lead from there. And lead by example. I mean, you're doing it. You're like, well, you started WOW. Other employees might say, oh, well, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
But if they don't see their leader doing it, they may be less likely to bring that idea up.
Yeah.
And you strike me as a leader who's open to new ideas. And
always. When I was a dance instructor, I was a great dance instructor, but a terrible choreographer. So I would do open mic where I would let my dancers, show me moves, and I would put those moves into my next dance. And so I do the same thing with my team. I'm like, you bring me your ideas. I don't have them all. Like, any idea, I would never shoot it down. And there's so many brilliant, smart people in our customers and at AWS that they come up with all the ideas. I just help implement them.
Favorite dance? What is your favorite?
Ooh, I love the Nutcracker. I was Clara a few times. I love Swan Lake. I love anything Tchaikovsky, Waltz the Flowers. It's hard to tell.
Only ballet.
I really am a ballerina. Arizona State, I went on a full ride dance scholarship, and they were a modern dance program. And if you don't, when you're a ballerina, you're very structured. It's very rules based. You don't get outside yourself. Modern dance is like, I wish I could have been more free flow, but my very only and first C was in my first modern dance class at Arizona State.
How did you recover from that?
I cried, and she told me to like, go find peace and look at the stars and loosen up a little bit. So, but it was great. It was a great learning lesson. Yes, mostly ballets, but I don't dance anymore. When you're a ballerina, you kind of cap out at like 24.
No swing dance, no salsa, none of that
My
stuff.
husband, no,
Okay.
he's a hard no on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He danced at weddings with me and that's it. Like,
Well, all right. So thinking about your team, what's the one trait you'd like to instill in your employees and why is it important?
yeah, I think it's fearlessness. I think so much of our ability to not execute is because we get in our heads and we think of all the things that can go wrong, especially in an engineering culture. Again, I'm a creative, I'm an artist, so I don't have a lot of fear. It gets me in trouble. But I really want people to, like, they're super smart. They know what to do. Like, trust your gut and do it. And the worst thing that happens is you're like, sorry, I made a mistake. Can I have another shot? And just just be fearless. And because if you just try it for like 30 days where you're like, I'm just gonna not worry about, well, if I eat this piece of cake, I'm gonna, not look great in my whatever. Or if I don't do this paper right now, then I'm gonna, my world's gonna end. Like, just, or if I don't really know enough about XYZ industry, but I just read their annual report and like the latest 3, press releases, like, go do it, make the call, make the connection, ask 5 more questions and just be fearless.
That's a call to action. Just be fearless.
Yep.
Thinking about your career again, when's the time you had a twist or failure and how did it lead to your success or growth on down the road?
Yeah, I've had plenty of failures. I think that's so my husband and I have been together for 30 years. He's my soulmate. I love him. His parents are my parents. But when I was telling her, yeah, my parents told me I could do anything. She's like, well, you couldn't be an NBA basketball star. I'm like, I don't like basketball and I don't want to be on the NBA. So it's cool. Like, so I think it's people telling me all along the way, like, you can't, like, you shouldn't be here. When I first came to Cisco, they were like, what? I was the only woman in an office of 250 people who were selling to Sprint. And they were like, I didn't even know what a router or a switch was, but I was like, I can figure it out. And I said, just hire me. And if you don't like what I do and I can't learn it after 6 months, you can fire me. And in 6 months, I became the number 1 rep. And it was through learning and tenacity. But I think it's really, people telling you that you can't do things. For me, I'm like, bring it, watch me. I will show you. I was in a dance company and I was told my feet were wrong or my body was too big. And I was in a professional dance company. I was told I would never be able to survive in tech sales. And I should go, my very first boss actually told me I should be home cooking and cleaning and making babies for my husband. I'm like, first, I don't cook. We're not sure we're having kids. We do have 2 beautiful babies. But I was like, that's really, he's like, that's totally not cool. But I became the number 1 sales rep, and it wasn't that the other people weren't awesome. It was just I had more grit and more fearlessness, and I was like, you tell me to go to Louisiana and sell, I'll do it. Like, so I'm trying to think of a specific. I've had many challenges. I wanted to be a professional ballerina, like in New York City, and when I was 13, I was asked. They were like, you can move here and you could try it. And then I looked into it and it was like, clicked with your values to get roles. And I was like, nope, I don't want to do that. So that was a big turning point. I actually, I followed a leader 2 times to a company. And when she left, I worked for a tyrannical bully and that was horrible. And so I exited that role and I felt really like, should I even do this anymore? And I ended up coming to AWS, and after 17 years at Cisco, which I adored and loved, those are hard things that you're like, I'm not sure I'm even, and you question all that after 20 years. I'm like, what else can I do? I can't pay the mortgage teaching Pilates or making coffee. So I came to AWS and they took I didn't know ISV sales, but they liked my passion and energy, and I had a very good executive selling record. And they were like, you can do, this is what we need at Amazon. And so that was a really tough situation where I was at a pretty deep low to come in and have the biggest privilege of the world to work here every day. So
it definitely ties back to, I hear grit, all those stories and those moments, like it helped you grow, it helped you persevere.
Yep.
And you just got it. I mean, you just got that grit. It sounds like at a very young age.
Yeah.
And it helps you keep going.
Yeah, I do feel like, and having children, I have a 16 and 18-year-old boys, and they're amazing humans. And my number 1 thing is I wanted them to know how to love, work, and play, and I got that from Cisco. But I really, they have a perfect life. And we moved a few times with my job, and it was tough on them to move schools. But now they're, young adults. One's a freshman in college, and one's playing for a highly astute academic environment on a D1 hockey team. And they're like, we got some grit and animosity from those movements that helped us be the person we are today, versus if we would just stayed where we were born and, went all the way through. And I'm like, I want to teach you those tough things. Like my college kid's on a budget, and he's like, Mom, I'm spending my money by like the 12th of the month. And I'm like, brother, you got to work on it. It's hard. So I think it's really important to have those challenging, you need to have that animosity and that grit and just that ability to get back up. I mean, Angela Duckworth says in grit is getting knocked down 7 times and getting up the 8th. And I say grit for me has been getting knocked down like 40 times and then getting back up 41.
So bringing it a little bit towards AWS.
Yeah.
Amazon's a huge company. Yeah, AWS is a huge company.
Yes.
And it seems like it's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere now. AWS.
World domination.
Is everywhere. Where is AWS heading next that we need to be aware of? I mean, where are you going?
I mean, I'm so honored to be a part of Amazon and AWS. And I mean, we only have like 10% of the world using cloud today, which is insanity. So we have 90% to go to get the world to stop managing.
I thought it was higher than that. It seems like it.
It's in pockets, but if you look at like the total addressable market, it's still extremely low. Even let's go 80-20. There's still a huge opportunity. And my evangelistic vision is that we just have to take people. I love the Jeffrey Moore concept of core versus context, like your core business. Zscaler's core business is providing security for the world. You don't need to be managing infrastructure. So let AWS do that. And then where we can, let us manage all of the things that you're paying people to do, and let those people move upstream and develop the next Jet AI opportunity or the next killer security feature that will, keep cybersecurity threats at bay, like whatever it is. But I think there's so much opportunity. It's ridiculous. And when people talk about like, oh, it's tough times and we can't deliver the growth that we expected and this and that, I'm like, if you're still just selling compute and storage and you haven't attached it to the real business goal that we can achieve the top line, that's the fun stuff. Let's do that. Let's go do that.
What are the threats on the horizon? Because as AWS grows, as cloud grows, security threats are going to grow because it's just so available. I mean, that's really one of the core tenets, right, of AWS is you can do it. You can put it out there.
Yeah. I feel like, security is the paramount foundation. It's like if you were going to build a house, you would have a strong foundation. Security is that foundation. And everything we do at Amazon comes from a place of security. It's almost annoying working here because there's things like, oh, your phone won't work because you didn't download the latest upgrade. And so for users, you want to make that ubiquitous and access anywhere, but not get in the way of my business. So the threats are really only on us. If we can't execute to deliver our technologies to meet these big, hard problems and make co-innovation like Zscaler and AWS delivering a new $1 billion market together, that is our threat. It's not from the outside. It's not from anywhere. It's not, I don't have, people are always like, ooh, GCP, Azure. I'm like, I've been here 3 years. I have not yet lost a workload to any of those. Of course they're there. Of course they want the business. I have so much respect for GCP. I believe if we stay close to our customer, really, really close, and we bring them tremendous value, and we solve the hard problems together, we'll be unstoppable.
When you leave AWS one day, what do you hope your leadership legacy will be?
I definitely want my leadership legacy to be that that women have a place and a seat at the table in technology sales, and that women bring a unique capability of that. I don't have an ego in this. I don't need to get all the credit for it. I just need to see my people be successful, and I want to leave my customers better than I found them.
And so, winding this up, what's your call to action for leaders who are listening or watching this interview right now?
My call to action is to have grit. Get knocked down. It's hard, but that's just life. It's, the road less traveled. Scott Beck, the first line is life is hard. Life is hard. So accept that and embrace it. Number 2, be fearless. Stop worrying about the things that could go wrong and start thinking about the things that could go right or will go right and manifest that. And then lastly, just be kind, lead with love. I think in this time in the world, if everybody was like a little bit more loving and just comes from a place of love, I think that we could make the world a better place.
Thanks for coming on CXO Revolutionaries, Lauren.
Thank you, pleasure.